Realtor. I'm licensed in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and I work with buyers and sellers of residential and commercial real estate. And you know, it's a great time. I say this every week. And I've been saying it for several years. The real estate market is still very vibrant, very strong, and we're very fortunate here in Rhode Island in that we're still experiencing double-digit growth in the appreciation of single-family home sales, okay, about 11% year over year. And that's tremendous because there are other parts of the country that are experiencing declines in home values, like parts of Florida. Or if they're experiencing increases in home value, it's only a 2, 3, maybe 4%. So, you know, we're very fortunate that our housing market is as vibrant and strong as it is. It has been resistant to increases in the mortgage rates. You know, mortgage rates, going to my trusty Mortgage News Daily website, as of today, a 30-year fixed rate is 6.8, which is a little lower than it was last week when it was 7.05. And the 30-year FHA 6.16, VA 6.19%. So these are definitely movements in the right direction. You know, people ask, Joe, do you think rates are going to go down? Well, rates are, you know, I think, yes, they are going to go down. I don't know when. I don't know by how much. I can't imagine that we're going to see the, you know, conventional rates down into the fives. Maybe we'll see the FHA and the VA programs down into the fives at some point. But they're almost there now. I mean, they're at the 6.16, 6.19. So, you know, there are a lot of opportunities there for home buyers. And, you know, in addition to the low interest rates, there are a lot of programs out there for lower income buyers or first-time home buyers where there are, you know, with Rhode Island Housing, Mass Housing, there are grants that are available. And how you can find out about those, you need to work with a lender who is well aware of what's going on. And not all lenders are equal. Not all lenders offer the same products. And that's why I say it's very important to talk with your realtor. Of course, if you're working with me, I have a group of my lender partners that I refer my buyers to. And you know, some lenders have programs that are better suited to certain types of buyers and their financial situations and the type of homes that they're looking at. And other lenders have other programs that suit other types of buyers. So it's very important to find the one that's the best fit for your situation. Now, if you have any questions, okay, you can reach me. My number is 401-409-5030. You can give me a call or text me at that number during the day, and I'll answer any questions you have, whether you want to work with me eventually or not. I would certainly hope to earn your business, but we have to connect. You know, 401-409-5030. If you forget the number, Google me, just Joe Luca Realtor. Luca is Luca, and you'll find all of the different ways that you can reach me on social media, email, etc. And that could help you out because I'll give you direction, you know, answer questions, no obligation and no charge. Okay. So interest rates are down. Prices are still going up. So if you're thinking about buying a home, don't delay. Even if you don't think you're ready now, it's like, well, Joe, I'm not going to be ready until 6 months, a year, whatever it is. Start the process now because the more time you have to prepare, the better suited you will be to apply for a mortgage. Okay, and if you can do anything to improve your credit profile so that you can get a little bit lower interest rate, that's going to save you money every month. Okay, every month. But the first step, you have to give me a call, 401-409-5030. And I'll ask you some questions. We'll determine what's best for you because you're the boss, okay? And then if we need to try and take some steps to improve your credit or repair your credit, you know, I can refer you to my partner, Val Tridenti. That's all she does, okay? She helps people straighten out and improve their credit so they can qualify for the lowest mortgage interest rate possible, okay? Because that makes a difference. You know, and a lot of times people say, well, I want a no money down, mortgage or a low down payment mortgage. and they have bad credit. Now, you can get a mortgage with poor credit, but it's more difficult. And if you have a down payment, that can make the difference. But if you don't have 5, 10, 20% to put down and your credit is in the 500s, that can be a challenge. It's not the death knell on your home buying process, but you need to ramp up. You need to take some steps. And that's why I encourage everyone to start early. Even if you're not ready for another 6, 12, 18 months, give me a call now and we'll start the ball rolling. 401-409-5030. And I work at RE/MAX Preferred. We're out of North Providence. I like RE/MAX. People say, Joe, why do you stay at RE/MAX? Well, I've been there for about 12 years, 13 years. And, no one in the world sells more real estate than RE/MAX. We're number one. And that red, white, and blue balloon, it's very recognizable, so it makes it that much easier for consumers to see my listing. They see that listing sign, they're, blocks away from the house, but you can see that sign from far away. So it's definitely worth staying at RE/MAX and working with RE/MAX. Quick shout out, I want to thank our sponsors. Vern Rainville, Public Insurance Adjuster. If you own a property and you think you have a claim, give Vern a call. He works for you, the property owner, not the insurance company. He's licensed by the state of Rhode Island. 484-300-8495. That's Vern's number, 484-300-8495. Vern is a Northern Rhode Island guy. He's based right here in Rhode Island. Don't be fooled by his phone number. He is a Rhode Island guy, and he works and lives here. 484-300-8495. Even if you had a claim that was, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months ago, Vern may still be able to help you. But you have to give him a call. 484-300-8495. And of course, Compass Title and Escrow. Compass Title is owned by my buddy Anthony Betancourt. They're right in Lincoln at Blackstone Valley Place. And why they are a great group to work with is because, like me, they educate the consumer. They educate the client. They are not the place to go to if you want to have a 20-minute closing. Because Anthony, or whoever's conducting the closing, they explain everything to you. So you know what you're initialing, you know the purpose of the documents, and you know what you are signing. And that's important because sometimes, some loans, you have a stack of documents that's, an inch and a half thick. You should know what you are signing. And if you don't understand it, hit the brakes, ask Anthony, and he'll explain it. Okay? Compass Title and Escrow, they do a great job. GMET's Moving and Storage, the best move you'll ever make is by working with GMET's Moving and Storage. They have a website. You can get a price or schedule a move on their website, gmetsmoving.com. That's G as in George, M as in Michael, E as in Edward, T as in Tom, Z as in Zebra, gmetsmoving.com. Go there and you can check them out and get a price on your move, whether it's moving furniture from one side of the house to the other side, moving your whole home from Woonsocket to Westerly, or from Rhode Island to Georgia. GMETS Moving can help you out. They also have storage facilities, so if you need to take the furniture out of the home for a period of time while you're having work done in your home, you have some contractors in there doing some work, rebuilding floors, doing whatever. GMETS can store your belongings for you. So that being said, talking about contractors and work, we have another awesome guest this week. Okay, we have Bob Brierly from Calyx Builds. They're right out of Lincoln, Rhode Island. Bob, thank you very much for coming to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show, and say hello to our listeners and tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Joe. Thanks for inviting us to the show tonight. I help to run Calyx Builds. We're a combination of two companies. We're located in Lincoln. One of the companies is a construction company where we do kitchens and bathrooms. We also do whole house renovations and additions. The other company is Calyx Retrofit, which we work with the RISE program and community action programs, where we insulate houses that were built as long as 200 years ago. So we work with RISE in both Massachusetts and Rhode Island to re-insulate those homes. We do about 8 or 10 houses a week in the installation part of the company.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a great program for that. It's heavily subsidized by the utilities, as much as 70% and sometimes more. The community action programs for low-income folks, and those are hundreds of percent subsidized. And if you have owned a three-family home, that's an opportunity that we can go ahead and insulate those homes for people, and all 3 floors can be done as part of that program.
Excellent, excellent. So now you said you do kitchens and baths, and that's one of the things that people always talk about when people watch the TV shows about remodeling homes. That's something that is very important, because it's something. Well, first of all, it can be pretty expensive to do that, because
yes, it can.
But it's something people spend a lot of time in their kitchen, and
it's the heart of the home.
Yeah, and it's something that can really make a difference in the attractiveness and improving the saleability of a home. But now, you work with multiple price points and size homes, correct?
Correct. We do. We work in pretty much every neighborhood. We do the same quality work, same experience we try to give to each one of our customers. What commonly happens is we get a reference from somebody, or actually our biggest source of work is repeat customers, where people come back and do in some cases, the 6 or 7 project.
Wow.
With us. We had a customer on the east side where they sold a house in the east side, and they bought another house in Cranston and Edgewood, and we're on to the 4th project on another house. So
wow.
We take pride in that we've done a good job with them, and they come back to us again.
Yeah.
Other times, people will come in and have an idea, or they do want to do a project, but they have no idea what it's going to cost, if it's even feasible. So what will happen is somebody will contact us, and they'll meet with Jenna. Jenna's our person that is first point of contact. She takes the call and the information, sets up an appointment for myself or somebody else from the team to come out and look at the house and put a preliminary budget together. Sometimes it's a larger project where somebody just has no idea what it's going to cost. So sometimes it doesn't happen because it gets more expensive than they can for that property, or that they can afford for themselves.
Yeah.
But the next step is where we then dial in the exact specifications, the plans. We work with architects and draftsmen in order to produce everything that's necessary for submission for all the building inspectors.
And speaking of building inspectors, so that's one thing I always stress to my viewers, my listeners, is that when you're working with anything on a home, it's important to work with licensed and insured professionals. And Calyx Builds, you guys are licensed, you're insured, and so there's nothing that people have to worry about when they retain your services, because you speak the language that the building inspectors are looking for, and you guys have been around the block a couple of times, so what is what needs to be done to make sure that the homeowners are taken care of, correct?
Correct. So we work licensed in both Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So we have in Massachusetts we work up to Foxborough and Norton. In Rhode Island, we do most of northern Rhode Island, but sometimes we have customers. We have a customer in Providence that has a house down in Richmond, so we'll drive an hour away because it's a good customer. So we do work for them. Working with the building inspectors can be a challenge at times because everybody has its own personality.
Yeah.
But because of our experience, a lot of the building inspectors know us. I've talked to 2 building inspectors today because I needed to get some advice from a building inspector about another project, and Chuck answered my phone, called me back, and gave me the advice on it. And then we have another project where we're doing a whole house renovation in Burrville on the pond up there, and we found out that the building permit had to be submitted by Friday, otherwise it was going to be subject to the new energy code that took place in November. But the deadline was Friday. I just found it out today. So
oh my goodness.
We took care of it. Everything's submitted.
Yep.
Talked to the building inspector. He's going to check all the paperwork, and then we should be good. So that way they save quite a bit of money and not have to read through all the plans and redo everything for something that they've been working on. We've been working for them since last January.
Wow.
So we've been 14 months into this. So
that's fantastic.
Timing is always a thing.
Yep.
We try to let people know that we want to work for them.
Yeah.
But the time has to be right. The project has to be right. So it's important that you have that conversation I'm not one of those people that go into your home or your kitchen and sit there until 10 o'clock at night and say,
Right.
here's your pen. No, that's not the way we work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, one of the things that's important too is, and I say this every week, when it comes to real estate, surprises are never good in real estate, whether it's in, my side of the business, the lender side of the business, the closing and title side of the business. And I'd imagine too that, I know in your side of the business, surprises are not good. And a perfect example of, you and your team having the wherewithal, the awareness of that one thing that helped, this project, not become unnecessarily expensive and then perhaps not, take too long. Because, if you didn't and then you found out about it the Monday after the Friday, that probably would have been a very unfortunate surprise for you and for the homeowner, correct?
It would be. And as we came together as a team. We have in the project management team for construction, we have 5 people, including myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when we found out from the architect that this is a possibility, that there was a submission that should be made, we were able to jump on it. We coordinated with a civil engineer who did all the work for the DEM, the customer, who had to have their input into it, and the architect gave us the final plans on here. So,
Yep.
So there was 3 of us working on it today over the course of the day in order to make sure that submission was done.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're a good-sized company. I've got 22 people that work with me.
Yep.
So we're able to take on larger projects, and when something has to happen, like today, we're able to jump on it and take care of the need.
Excellent. Now, Bob, what is the best way for people to reach out to you? I mean, if they wanted to call a company or call you, they have questions, they're not sure, how should they reach out?
Sure, we have several different ways. We have a website. It's calyxbuilds.com, CALYXBUILDS.com. And on that is a page where it says inquire at calyxbuilds.com. That's a questionnaire where you fill that out, and then that goes directly to our office, and Jenna gives you a call back, email back, and that's the first point of contact. So what she's trying to do is to get an idea of what kind of project you're looking for, what town you're working in, what the address is. So that way, when I get to that level and want to have the conversation with you, I have a lot of the homework's already been done for me,
Mm-hmm.
so I can have a really good conversation with you when I come to your home.
Excellent. Now, do you have, so I got a couple of different questions in
Sure,
my head right
shoot.
now. So how much of a difference is there working from in one town to another town? Is there, like, I know as a realtor, we have to deal with the fire marshals, and there can be, when you're looking at, say, Pawtucket or Central Falls or Woonsocket compared to like Burrillville or Charlestown, there can be a lot of leeway in how they interpret the fire codes. It's the same state fire code, but they have a little, I call it elbow room in how they interpret it. Is that consistent on the build side regarding building codes, the state building codes?
It's gotten better over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this for 40 years, and over the course of time, the codes have changed a number of times.
Mm-hmm.
The building inspectors and all the different towns and fire marshals have all changed. But what the state of Rhode Island has been trying to do is to put everything on a portal, so that instead of, like years ago, I would have to go down to Hopkinton on Wednesday from 7 to 9. Every other week was the only time you could get a building permit.
Oh, wow.
So if I missed that Wednesday, if I was sick or on vacation,
Mm-hmm.
it was a problem. Now I can go onto a portal. I can download all the information.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing the same thing with zoning. They're doing the same thing with planning. So a lot of the information that was not readily available, is now becoming more available. It's becoming easier, more streamlined,
Mm-hmm.
which has always been a problem, because in some towns, I can go into Burrillville and get a building permit I can go in and get a building permit the same day for a house.
Oh, yeah.
Where other towns, it would take 6 or 8 weeks to get a building permit for the same exact house, the same situation.
Wow.
So that inconsistency was what was hard for us as contractors, and
Mm-hmm.
trying to let our customers know, like, we're doing the best we can, but the towns have gotten better.
Yeah.
They still are what they are, but because we work in a lot of different towns in the state, we know a lot of the building inspectors, and
Mm-hmm.
that gives us a leg up, because when something happens, they give us the benefit of the doubt.
Yep.
And sometimes like during COVID, we were doing virtual inspections.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to gain a lot of trust because
Yeah.
they knew we were doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's significant, when you have the trust of the building inspectors, because I'd imagine, those guys, or not I'd imagine, I know that a lot of these building inspectors have to deal with people that are trying to get one over on them all the time. And when you're working with a quality builder like Calyx Builds, that makes a big difference, because you hire Calyx Builds, and then when the building inspector comes in, they have a good idea of the quality of work that they're going to be inspecting, and they're probably not going to come in with the wrong attitude, which sometimes can happen.
Right. We've had a situation in Providence where we had a building inspector wanted me to do something,
Mm-hmm.
and I told him what the alternative was, and like, you can't do that. And I showed him the code book,
Yeah.
and I said it was one of the alternatives. It's like, oh, you taught me something.
Yeah.
So that was one of those things where we'd already done the work for one thing. I wouldn't want to redo the work.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I was able to teach a building inspector something, which is always
That's good.
the feather in my cap. So
Yeah, exactly. So now you also, and we're talking about, the work that you do on existing homes, and you said you do additions, but you guys also have experience with ADUs, accessory dwelling units.
correct.
Talk a little bit about that for our listeners.
So we've been doing accessory dwelling units for years. Up until last June, it was a permitted use for about 10 or 15 years, where you could put an addition on your house. It had to be of a certain size. Each town had its own regulation. It had to be a family member. The house had to be owned by a family member. In some towns like Johnson, you had to record the family member was still alive each year. And when that person passed, then the ADU was dissolved. They passed a law last June where an ADU can be built on any house in the state of Rhode Island, as long as it meets the health and safety. It has to have water, it has to have sewage, and all the utilities have to be taken care of, and as long as it meets the setbacks of the zoning. So now it's a permitted use every place. Doesn't have to be owner occupied, doesn't have to be a family member anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be continuous use on here. So we were talking about housing before, about how there's not a lot of housing in the state, and it's tough to get more of that. So
Yeah.
we built four of those ADUs in last year.
Wow.
There were different situations where we've done additions on houses, basement conversions, put an egress in for the basement, converted a 2-car garage into an ADU. So there's different setups for each house,
Mm-hmm.
and try to meet the needs. And sometimes it's a rental, sometimes it's for a college student that's coming home and wants to have their own place to stay but doesn't want to have an apartment. We did one in Burville recently where mom and dad sold their condo in Lincoln, and we built an ADU as an addition onto the house.
Yep.
We're working with another couple where mom and dad are in the main house and they're building ADU for the children, and then when the time comes, they're going to flip-flop.
Oh.
The kids will now have the
Mm-hmm.
grandkids, and they'll move into the big house, and the parents will move into the ADU. So there's still multi-generational
Yeah.
housing, but everyone can stay in the same place. They can
Mhm.
share their lives together and share the utilities. And as things change, where you need help with the grandkids or you need help with the grandparents,
Yep.
it works out well.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and it's kind of one of the things that we're seeing a lot of. Nowadays people are forced into that situation because of pricing, because homes have become so expensive, and rents are so high.
Crazy.
And this is it's not a bad thing, because I think it's good when you have families that can stay together and support each other. It's kind of like, in the air quotes, the old days, when the families would stay together and support each other, and they still do that in many countries around the world. The parents help the kids, and then the grandparents help the grandkids, and it makes it easier for everyone to pay the bills. And then if you have a built-in babysitter with grandma or grandpa still there, you can save money as well as not just on extra rent or mortgages, but you're saving money on daycare. So I think it's kind of a good thing to perpetuate and strengthen the family unit and the family structure. And I think I'm very happy that the state of Rhode Island and now Massachusetts has adopted ADUs as a viable option for people, because we had a situation where many times people would sell their home here and they'd move to Florida, and then one of the one half of the couple would die, and then the other half would be in Florida all alone. So then they'd have to come here, and sometimes it doesn't make sense to spend $1,500 a month for a nice apartment for grandma or grandpa. Have them come in, and if you can make an ADU in the basement or an addition or somewhere, it's a much more feasible option for families.
It's great. It's been a great option. We've done a number of those over the years, and people have never been unhappy having
Right.
made that choice.
Yep. Now, are you seeing, if you're looking at places like Burrville or North Smithfield where there's a lot of open land, are you seeing more ADUs in those areas or more in more densely populated areas like Lake Woonsocket, Lake Pawtucket, Providence?
We're seeing it in both. In areas where there's more land, there's more options as far as putting an addition on the side of the house. We're working with somebody in North Smithfield where they have a 2-car garage and they want to go above that 2-car garage and put an ADU there. In other areas where we're doing one in Pawtucket, in Oak Hill right now, they have a detached 2-car garage, and that's what works in that area. In Providence, there's a lot of restrictions. There's some restrictions they have to put in Providence. So where you have a 2-car garage in the corner of the yard on the east side or in other parts of Providence, people were interested in going up and putting a second floor on there, so they can keep one of the garages and then put the ADU on the second floor so they can use it as a rental for Brown students. But Providence put height restrictions on that area because they didn't want to have 2-story houses, 2-story ADUs in the corner of the lot. So there are some restrictions. So as we've gotten into this, the towns have some control because they don't want it to look like, when you're doing an addition, when you're doing any kind of renovation, you always want to make sure it looks like it belongs there.
Right.
Now I'm sure we've all gone past the house and you look at it and you see different roof lines and you can just tell it's wrong. It just is unbalanced. It just looks wrong. And this is the same thing on doing a 2-story building in the corner of a house lot in a tightly packed neighborhood.
Yeah.
It looks wrong.
Yeah.
Blocks the view of everybody else. So this gets, even if somebody's something as simple as growing a garden in the backyard, and now you have this 2-story monstrosity that's right on the property line.
Yep.
It's unfair to the neighbors. So you have to find that balance.
Yeah, and I think I grew up in North Providence, and back in the 70s and 80s in North Providence, they used to. Stuff would get approved like you just you'd shake your head. I mean, even as a kid, it's like
that was back before. So that's when building inspectors in the towns were not as transparent as they are now.
Yeah.
Because I know a guy.
Yeah.
So a lot of I know a guy stuff was going on back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's unfair because we should all be equal with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
We should all
and
have
since
the same
then,
opportunities.
Right. I think in a lot of these communities that has changed, so that there are building codes, and you can't do whatever you want, and just go there and take because I know a guy, he'll allow me to build this property and not deal with the setbacks.
So even with that, with the customer where we apply for the building permit today, the last day they can apply for that exception is being grandfathered in for the building code, because they started planning this a year and a half ago with an architect before we were involved. Started working with the wetlands permits and then getting all that work done. So it's unfair to them to have to go through the new code. But the deadline is only 90 days after the new code was implemented. So it's going onto the portal, which is now a state portal, and the state's washing it, because if somebody in another town tries to put an application in 2 or 3 weeks from now or a month from now underneath the old code, then the state building code commission can come over here and ixnay the whole thing because it's unfair for somebody to get it after the deadline.
Right.
So you can't do a favor, you can't do I know a guy thing anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just having a level playing field, which is all we're looking for.
Now you mentioned something about like wetlands and things like that. So that's something else that your team is prepared to deal with if necessary. If somebody wants to either do a detached ADU there are some
so
regulations.
there's a lot of elements of the design process. So when we first go to see somebody's house, if there's wetlands, the stream, a pond, the ocean. We did the oceanfront. We did an ADU down in Edgewood. We converted the pool house into an ADU, and because it's in the flood zone, we had to do some modifications in order to allow for the flood zone happening. So through that process, we have biologists that we work with, architects, civil engineers. There's a host of professionals I have to bring in sometime in order to be able to put the project together, and we have that. We know a guy.
Right. So has the DEM side of things, is that pretty consistent how challenging it can be, or has it become a little more easy or a little more challenging over the past
It's
few years?
become predictable.
Okay.
It's become predictable because over the years, it's the same thing back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else would get something approved, and everybody would shake their head and say, "How did that go through?" So now it's more transparent, and it's consistency is a thing. It still takes time. The biologist still has to look at the application.
Yep.
But they're held to a standard now. So the time frame for permits is more predictable than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have to go down and shake a stick at people back in the DM because it was sitting on somebody's desk. People were just obstructing progress, and we had to, physically would have to go down there and like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And now we can look at a portal now and see where it is in the process. So it's made a big difference.
Excellent. Good to know. Getting back to the different services and products that Calyx Builds offers, you mentioned about insulation, and you guys have some unique skill sets and products that you offer, which is especially appropriate when you're in this part of the country this time of the year where we have crazy cold temperatures and strong winds and things like that. Talk to our listeners a little bit about that side of the business, please.
Sure. So I built my house in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I've had Rise come in and insulate it twice because the code has changed twice. I'm having another audit done in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Because you can go back and have a house reordered every 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when the code changes happened, air sealing, spray foam, cracks and gaps around windows, putting more insulation. So initially, we go into houses even now where there's no insulation up in the attics. Now the code in Rhode Island is 12 inches. In Massachusetts, it's 15 inches in our 49. So there's a lot of opportunities to insulate a house and save energy. If we insulate 1 million houses, is the one I've heard is that you don't have to build a power plant, so it's good for the environment.
Okay.
People are saving money. If you look at your electric bill and your gas bill, in both in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, it's the Mass Save program in Massachusetts, and the Rhode Island program is run by Rise. You see an energy conservation charge.
Mm-hmm.
So on your gas bill, your electric bill, you're already paying for that work to be done. So thank you all for supplying the money that then funds my guys and the work that we do for you. So Rise comes out and does the audit on it, inspection, and then through that they give you a list of tasks that we would perform. It tells how much you're paying. Generally people will pay 15 to 20% of the cost of a project. If it's low income, may not pay anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Then we schedule the work and we come out, and it takes a day or 2 days to do the installation. We insulate walls, we do the attics, we do work in the basements, around the chimneys. So there's hundreds of tasks that we do on a house, and every house is different. We worked in houses that were built in the 1700s, and my house is 25 years old, and we've been there twice and possibly a third time.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are different types of insulation. You think about the old fiberglass insulation, and then there's blown-in insulation that was a different material, and then there's spray insulation. Talk a little bit about the differences between those and their applications and effectiveness.
So in the program that we work with, we use Air Seal as one of the products that we use that wasn't used years ago. So it's a spray foam, like a great stuff like you see at Home Depot. So we have industrial sized cans, and we do all the cracks and gaps because air goes through small spaces. It also seals it off from mice and rats and all that kind of stuff too. So it has a secondary effect on that. So that stops the air from rising up into the attic and escaping out through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at a house with the snow on it, that means the house is well insulated. If you look at a house that has no snow on it, right next door, that means it has poor insulation. So it's a easy key to see what house is insulated and what house is not insulated.
Yep.
So depending upon the project, we'll use some of the pink fiberglass stuff insulation. We still use that.
Mm-hmm.
Primary product we use is recycled cardboard. It used to be recycled newspaper, but people don't use newspaper anymore.
Right.
But everybody has cardboard delivered to your house. So that gets recycled. It comes out of a plant out of Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
It's ground down into a fiber that is also treated with boric acid, borate. The borate is a flame retardant. I've got on my website where I'm holding some cellulose in my hand and I've got a torch, and I melt the penny in my hand on top of that cellulose, and it's just charring the cellulose gets a little bit, but the penny melted.
Wow.
So that's how flame resistant it is. It's also because it's borate like borax.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks all the moisture out of you.
Okay.
So our guys wear masks and suits when they're working with it, but the critters, the mice and rats and squirrels, they don't like it because they don't like to. It's very dry. It's not toxic, but they don't like it.
Yep.
On new houses, so sometimes with Massachusetts, they have an enhanced energy code.
Mm-hmm.
We use spray foam. We don't do spray foam. It's a different product. It's a two-part mix. It's like you have to be a chemist almost in order to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we use spray foam. So we have an area with a vaulted ceiling, and you have to have a high R value. Then we use the spray foam because R value is the insulating value of the house, of the insulation, and we use the spray foam in order to achieve the value that's needed for the building code.
Okay.
It's a lot more expensive, and it has its uses. So you're trying to balance off an envelope of a house that some parts may be insulated more and other parts are less, but overall you have a well insulated home.
Yep. I've seen commercials for like expanding foam that they cut a hole in the wall and shoot it in, and it goes in between the studs and whatnot. Is that something that is that something that you guys do? Is that something
I've seen the same commercials, and we haven't used it.
Yep.
We had looked at a company about 15 years ago down in Connecticut that used it, and it hasn't been used a lot around here from what we've seen. So, which usually means there's some issues with it that are otherwise it'd be used more.
Yep.
It's also not though with the Rhode Island program and the Mass Save program, that is not part of it. The spray foam is not part of it.
Okay.
And the other foam that's put into the base is not part of. It's not subsidized for that because they use a cost to benefit ratio. So they want to make sure anything they're doing in somebody's home has a payback. When you do your audit, it will actually say that if you're paying, say, $1,000, we've done projects that are $15,000, $10,000 for an installation work. If you're paying, as a homeowner, consumer, you're paying $1,500 of that.
Yep.
They'll tell in how many years that you're going to get that money back.
Okay.
So you get your payback on the audit. So that way you know what you're getting yourself into,
Mm-hmm.
and that is worthwhile. And on some of those other products, it's just not worthwhile.
Yep. Good. Folks, you're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. I am Joe. I'm your host every Tuesday evening right here on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 on the AM dial. You can also check us out at WNRI.com. We stream live, and there are no pop-ups or anything like that. We just stream right along online. Want to do a shout out to our sponsors, of course, Compass Title and Escrow. Excuse me, Anthony Betancourt and his team do a fantastic job taking care of our buyers and sellers of commercial and residential real estate. That's Compass Title and Escrow. GMET's Moving and Storage, the best move you'll ever make. #1 mover in southern New England. Whether you need furniture moved from one side of the house to the other, taken out of the house so you can have Calyx Builds come in and do some contracting work for you, GMET's Moving and Storage can do it. And all you have to do is go to their website, gmetsmoving.com, and you can get a price, or you can actually schedule the project on their website. And Vern Rainville, public insurance adjuster, he's licensed by the state of Rhode Island to help homeowners with their insurance claims on their property. Vern works for you, the homeowner, not the insurance company. So if you have a claim and you call the insurance company and they send somebody out to come and look at your house, that insurance adjuster works for the insurance company, not for you, the homeowner. Vern works on your behalf. And what he does is he makes sure that you receive all of the monies that you are entitled to based on your claim. And it may take a little longer to determine how much money that is, but that's why you have Vern, because Vern understands the business, the insurance side, and the construction side. Vern Rainville, Public Insurance Adjuster, 484-300-8495. That's 484-300-8495. Vern Rainville, Public Insurance Adjuster, licensed by the state of Rhode Island. So, folks, we've had as our guest this week Bob Brierly from Calyx Builds. Calyx is a company, they're right out of Lincoln, Rhode Island, and they're pretty comprehensive in the services that they offer. They do ADUs, they do remodeling, they do additions, they have a division that does insulation through Rise and Mass Save. So, they are a very comprehensive in what they offer. They're experienced, they're licensed, they're insured, top shelf company. And if you have any questions, thoughts, you're not sure if you can do something, you're just kicking the idea around, what I want you to do is I want you to reach out to Bob Brierly, give them a call, check them out, and I'm going to turn the camera around. Bob, what's the best way for people to reach you on your website and the phone number?
So if you go to the website, it's calyxbuilds.com, CALYXBUILDS.com. And we have two phone numbers. One's a Rhode Island number, which is 401-334-9110, 401-334-9110. And a Massachusetts number is 508-639-9595, 508-639-9595. So multiple ways of getting a hold of us, and we will call you back.
Yep.
Which is kind of unusual for contractors.
Yeah, exactly. And I like to let people know that there are multiple ways when we have guests to reach them. If it's social media, if it's telephone, if it's email, whatever it is, because not everybody's good about responding to calls or responding to emails. So when you're working with Calyx Builds, they're very good about that. It's not just Bob. Bob's a great guy and he's very knowledgeable and experienced, but Calyx Builds, they have a team of people who do things besides the guys that swing the hammers and you do the cutting and work the screwdrivers and any other tools that they need. They have a team of people to make sure that everything is on track, stays on track, and again, to avoid surprises. Because surprises, when it comes to real estate, when it comes to construction, aren't good. And working with someone with the experience and knowledge like Calyx Builds has, it's almost like a sure thing that your job's going to get done. They're much higher probability that you're going to get something done on time when there aren't surprises. Okay, of course, we've experienced a lot of challenges the past few years with supply chain and things like that, which I would venture to guess that you experienced a little bit of a delay because of those issues back in the day.
We had those problems going in during COVID. So one of the biggest ones was the lack of pressure-treated lumber.
Yep.
Because all of a sudden the restaurants are building outdoor seating areas and putting up barriers for
okay.
cars, and there was a ton of things going on. So a lot of that wood comes from Georgia. That's where my daughter lives, Southern Yellow Pine.
Yeah.
And they would ship it up to BB&S in Quonset and put the pressure-treated, they put chemicals into it, and they want to make it pressure-treated lumber. And before we would have this lumber, I'd be sitting at BB&S, I would sit at the lumber yard and go to the job, and we would work with it, and then it was turning around so fast that when we cut it, it was rusting our saw blades.
Oh, it's still that wet.
There was so much moisture still in the product. It was just crazy how that was happening because it didn't have a chance to sit because it was always needed all the time.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge as far as that goes, and we had other products where they limited the color roof shingles for a period of time to 6 colors.
Really?
So right now that's usually 20, 25 colors, but they really limited it because everybody kind of pulled their horns and so those challenges are over, thank God.
Yeah.
We're done with all that, so things are back to normal now.
So now, how about have prices, I know everybody talked about how expensive everything was before. Have the prices come back down to reality?
No, prices have stayed up there,
They have.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
And we just got our price increases in January and February, and we got another round of March 15th. So, depending on the industry, for windows or lumber, all those have changed. The cost for plumbers, the cost for copper. So,
yeah.
a lot of our trades they've had to raise their prices too in order to make money. So, unfortunately, a lot of this, some projects that we did years ago now are 20-30% higher than they used to be.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about, you mentioned windows. When people are replacing windows, that's one of those things that can be an expensive endeavor, but it's very important. Like, there's a lot. Just because you don't know something about window replacement isn't a good excuse. I mean, talk a little bit about what makes a good window, a good installer, and a good installation of a window, because there are a lot of, as we call them in North Providence, jabronis out there who, are doing that, and they're not necessarily doing the best job.
So on window replacements, we the two primary products we install are Anderson windows and Harvey windows. Anderson's made in Minnesota, Harvey is made in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, mainly in North Dartmouth. So having it as a local company, it's good for the environment because you're not shipping it from far away. They are vinyl replacement windows. The big thing about those is making sure that you have a high quality window. So the windows that I put in my own house are Harvey windows, so they've had them for 25 years.
Yep.
The warranty still stands on those. You'll see where it gets foggy. I had a window last year that got foggy. Even though the window was built 24 years ago at that point, I gave them the code on it. And a month later, I had the new sash for it. Same color, same pattern of the grids inside of that. So having a good, solid company that your installer is working with is very important. You don't want to get some cheapy window from Home Depot.
Right.
Argon filled glass makes a difference because it has a higher U value, which is an R value.
Really? Something new.
So how energy efficient those windows are. And when you take out the old windows, it's important to seal around the edges. Sure, we all sat down on the couch and you feel that breeze coming in. You feel it coming in through the windows. And it's not necessarily the window if it's a good replacement window, but it's the sealing around that window. If that has not been done, if the stops haven't been applied properly, if there's still an air gap that lets air through, then that's an important part of that.
Is that something that type of an issue that Rise or Mass Saves would take care of when they come in?
It is not.
It is not. Okay.
It is not. Because in order to air seal around windows, even in my own house, 25 years ago, air sealing wasn't a big thing. And so I stuffed the pink insulation around it, and now we would use spray foam, non-expanding, so that doesn't tighten up the window too much, and make it inoperable. In order for me to air seal around my own windows, I have to take all the casings off on the inside. And we have nice paint job, nice casings.
Right.
And so the amount of work to take that off in order to air seal that is not worth it. There's no cost and benefit ratio in order to do all that work. So as a contractor, I did it to my own house. And I repainted it a couple of years ago, and I thought about it. It's just not worth it. So.
Yeah. I actually want to shift gears, and I apologize for just popping this question on you. I've seen commercials on TV for this roofing company, and I think it's called like Roof Max or something like that, where they spray stuff on your roof, and it allegedly gives you like more life, of your roof. Have you seen those commercials?
I've seen those commercials. I haven't checked into it because most of the roof shingles are fiberglass.
Right.
So they're not oil. They used to be asphalt shingles, but most of them are fiberglass now. So I could see if there's an oil kind of coating that would put in here that would make it better. But a lot of roofs, you have to clean it off so much. There's moss and leaching on it. There's a lot of pollution that goes onto roofs. So you really have to clean that roof off well. And for what I've seen, what the cost is on it seems to be not trustworthy.
Yeah.
It's not something that I haven't gone deep into it, but I guess this doesn't seem to be a viable alternative.
Yeah, it seems, I don't know, I mean, I'm not the contractor, but it's one of those things, it seems too simple
Right.
to accomplish what they claim it would accomplish.
There's the other one where they put a plastic coating on the vinyl or the wood shingles on your house.
I haven't seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same kind of concept, and just I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with that.
Yep. All right. So, Bob, we're coming up towards the end of the show. So one of the things we've been talking about is additions, and we mentioned about roofs and siding. Do you provide that type of work, or those types of services as well? Like if somebody needs to vinyl side the house?
We do.
Yep.
We do. We're working with a customer in Barrington, Rhode Island right now, and they have an old siding on the house, and they actually contacted us for the RISE program. So we did the RISE installation work and said, oh, you do contracting too. So we're stripping the siding on the whole exterior of the house.
Yep.
And redoing some windows. It was a mismatch of different kinds of trims on it, so we're redoing the exterior of the house. So it's going to bring it up to snuff. And
are there different types or of siding? In other words, you're going to put vinyl siding on. Are some styles better than others for insulation purposes? I mean, I know some, like you have the ones that look architecturally impressive, but is there a difference from one to the other?
For insulation, really not. There's not really much of a difference.
Okay.
So when you do an overlay siding, which is where you do a siding over the existing siding, which is the least expensive way of doing that, we will put a fan back insulation on the exterior of the house, so that adds some R value, but that's not the siding itself. No, there's different types of wood clapboard, red cedar shingles, white cedar shingles, and then there's a host of different kinds of vinyl. So we'll do cedar impressions, which has a real shake look, and do it as a feature on a peak of a house on the front of the home, and they use a clapboard vinyl siding on the sides and the rear. So there's different ways of mixing it up, and you get to choose your colors, of course.
Okay, great. Good to know. Folks, you are listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. I am Joe. I'm your host every Tuesday evening from 6 to 7 o'clock p.m. right here on WNRI, 99.9 FM, 1380 on the AM dial. And we're also streaming on WNRI.com. Just scroll down a little bit and click the button, and you can listen to us anywhere in the world. This show is actually rebroadcast every Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. So if you didn't catch everything, you want to catch it again, you can check us out at 1 p.m. on Saturdays on the radio station or on our website, WNRI.com. So we've had our guest tonight, Bob Brierly, Calyx Builds. They're out of Lincoln, Rhode Island. They offer several different products and services for property owners. If you need to have an ADU done, they're great with that. They can do kitchen, bathroom remodelings. They can put an addition on. They have a team of people, not just the guys who do the actual work. They have a team of people who handle things to deal with the whole process, to manage the process. So that way it's not as stressful as it may otherwise be when you're just learning about things as they're happening, because you're dealing with people. They're big on communication. You're dealing with people who understand the process, and they know how to manage the process of whatever the task is that you're having. They have an installation division. They do work for Rise and Mass Saves, and that can be helpful too. And Bob was just saying how they were doing a job for a homeowner in Barrington, and that homeowner decided to retain them for additional services. So, they can help you out, make things easier, kind of a, one-stop shopping. So if you wanted to have windows done or roofing or siding or anything in addition to the insulation that, they're at your house doing, they can help you out with that. And then, of course, ADUs. Not everyone understands what an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit. They don't understand what it is, and they don't understand the requirements that need to be met when constructing an ADU. If it's an addition, if it's in the basement, or if it's a detached structure, or if it's above a garage or converting a garage. Calyx Builds, they have the experience, they have the knowledge. so that they can make it as smooth and uneventful as possible for you, the consumer. And that's one of the things that, the Joe Luca Real Estate Show, this is my 12th year. And one of the things I try to do is introduce you, the consumers, to folks who can make the process of buying a home, selling a home, remodeling a home, rebuilding a home, flipping a home, whatever you want to do. I like to introduce you to people that can make it simpler, easier, and less stressful. Working with the right lender. Okay, there are not all lenders are equal. They have lots of different mortgage products they offer. Sometimes you need to work with a lender who does rehab loans. If it's a 203K, which is an FHA product, that is something that can be helpful too. And I would imagine that Calyx Builds has probably worked with some consumers that have had 203K loans or rehab loans in the past, where you have to complete the paperwork and then send it to the bank, or they come out and inspect it, and then after that's done, then you guys receive payment for your services. Is that true?
Yes, we do 203K loans and HELOC loans.
Yep.
We don't do the loans, but
Right.
we work with the banks. So the 203K loan is where you especially on people that want to buy a house and they don't have all the money to do it. So the 203K loan then is against the future value of the house, and the money's provided so somebody can buy a house and still have the money to bring the house up to where it needs to be.
Excellent. So, folks, I want to thank Bob for coming in from Calyx Builds. We will be back here next week, same bat time, same bat channel, WNRI. I'm Joe Luca. Thank you very much. Bob, thank you very much for stopping by, and we hope to have you by again.
Joe, thank you for having us. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you folks.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Come on, take a shot.
Pardon me. Sir, pardon me.
Oh, yes, sorry. Just taking a picture.